Dear students, today in this session, let us discuss regarding the investigation of damage, procedure for damage assessment, and also evaluation of cracks. In the previous session, we have discussed some of the basic things of the damage assessment and what is the actual purpose for the damage assessment, and we have discussed regarding the rapid assessment procedure. So now in this particular session, we are going to study with respect to the investigation of damage, the actual procedure for damage assessment, and we can also study regarding the evaluation of cracks. In that, we are going to study with respect to the type of cracks and how actually the cracks will develop. So, according to our syllabus, we are having purpose of assessment, rapid assessment. This we have studied in the previous session. Now, in this session, we are going to study with respect to the investigation of damage and also damage assessment procedure and also evaluation of surface and structural cracks. Okay, in the next session, we are going to study with respect to the destructive, non-destructive, and also non-semi-destructive testing systems. Okay, now let us see the investigation of damage. We know from the name itself, it is telling the investigation. The common people also know regarding the meaning of investigation. Now here, with respect to the damage, we are discussing. Because of that, the the heading is investigation of damage. Let us go through this. The investigation of reason for damage of structure is largely a matter of gathering information by observation, study records, and asking questions, supplemented if necessary by a certain amount of testing, and then interpreting the information thus obtained. So, in the previous sessions, we have discussed, or in the previous model, we have discussed regarding the different causes of the failure of structure or distressing of the structure. So in this damage assessment, okay, what we have to do, these are some of the, we are having a some of step-by-step procedure to conduct the assessment of procedure. Okay, here just it is a just like that we can observe here a largely matter of gathering information. That means the investigation of damage is nothing but collecting the information with respect to the building, okay, with respect to the structures, and we can also study the records and asking questions. That means if we are having any records with respect to that structures, okay, that we have to be collect and we have to ask the questions with respect to the buildings, and if necessary we have to conduct any different testing, such as maybe any type of testing that we can discuss in the next session or in the later of this session itself. So this is the some of the basic investigation of the damage, and after that we have to interpret the information thus obtained. So by observation, by studying the records, and by asking some of the questions with respect to particular persons regarding building, and if we conduct any test on the structural elements, so after all this we have to interpret the information so that we can properly assess the building. So by doing that we can do the necessary retrofitting techniques. So next, coming to the general procedure for an investigation. So documentation of damage, this is the basic things, that is documentation of damage. That means we have to take the do the proper documentation with respect to the building. Okay, for example, for a particular type of damage, we have to be enter what is the type of damage and what is the type of structures we are doing the assessment, and what is the date, what is the engineering date, and what is the firm, which firm the assessment is doing that. So all this we are coming under the documentation of damage. Next we have to be do the visual observations that we can discuss in the later. Measurement on geometrical parameters such as deflection and deformations, experimented for evaluating the material properties and behavior, interpretation and analysis of test results, analysis of the building, its damage state, taking into account the test results obtaining during investigation, formulation of repair measures, post-repair evaluation. So these are the some of the general procedure for an investigation. That means after documentation, we have to do the proper visual observation. Just by doing the observation in the buildings of the damaged buildings, That also we have to be note, or if required we have to take any photograph. After that we have to do the measurements of geometrical parameters such as deflection. For example, if it crosses its maximum deflection according to the codal provisions, we have to measure that. After that, the experimentation for evaluating the material properties, we have to do the some of the tests on the material properties to evaluate the material properties. Next, we have to be interpret these results. After that, analysis of the building, its damage stating, taking into account the test result obtained during investigation. Next, after that, we have to do once again the formulation for repair measures. That means by taking all this, we have to do the formulation. That means we have to fix up what is the type of repair and what is the type of retrofitting techniques we have to be used. After that, once again we have to do the post repair evaluation after retrofitting or rehabilitation, whether the building is ready to use. That also you have to be conduct. That is post repair evaluation. This is the general procedure. Next, let us go in detail the procedure for assessment of damage. So this is the first step. Okay, the first key step for investigation is to make a diagnosis of the defects of the failure of building. That means the step-by-step procedure we are having: visual inspection, study of available documentation, estimation of actual loads and environmental effects, diagnosis. So these are the different steps in the assessment of the damage. First, let us see regarding the visual inspection. As I discussed, first we have to do the proper inspection. That means this is the visual inspection is the first step in assessing the deterioration of the structures, because by observing through the naked eyes we should have a basic knowledge up to what percentage it damaged, and is there any color changes, or is there any new cracks is developing, or any there is only old cracks, like that. All these things we can do it by the visual inspection. That means by having a proper experience, the person can do the visual inspections. So along with that, we have to do the proper documentations. If it is necessary, we have to take some of the photograph if anything is available there. Next, study of available documentation. So this is also one of the very important step, that is study on of available documentation. For example, while before constructing the building, we are doing some of the tests on material, and we have to do some of the design methods, and we are having a drawing sheets, the structural drawing sheets. So all these things we have to study on the site conditions, whether what type of loadings conditions they have assumed, what is the type of material used. So all these things we are getting by the available documentation. So if it is required, a comparison with the adjacent building can also be done for the proper diagnosis. Next, we are having a estimation of actual loads and environmental effects. This is one of the, it's also one of the very important step, that is after collecting the documentations. So we have to find the actual loads and what is the environmental effects on that. So we have to study with respect to the what is the actual loads, what is the loads which is assumed, but what is the actual load which is applied in the site. For example, one building is designed for 2 kilonewton per meter square while analyzing the building, but after construction the same building is used for the different purpose and the 4 kilonewton per meter square load is applied. So there will be extra 2 kilonewton per meter square load is acting on a building. So this may be cost to distressing the structures. And what about the environmental effects? So whether the environmental effects is considered or not, and after construction of the building, whether any environmental changes is effects. So because of these effects the building will get deteriorated. So all these things we have to be studied. Next, at last we are having a diagnosis. So after studying all these things we have to do the proper diagnosis. So diagnosis of a cause or causes of damage is a prime of important and difficult. A proper and reliable diagnosis can be made only by conducting a systematic investigation using proven test methods and experienced persons. That means after visual observation and study of available documentation and also estimation of actual loads, at last we are having a procedure, that is diagnosis. By doing the proper diagnosis, that means you have to be use some of the test, we have to conduct some of the tests on the structure elements, so that at last by doing this, by all the above steps, we can find the what is the actual things which is happened on the structures. Okay, so this is regarding the visual inspections. So you can observe the flowchart here: the physical inspections, material tests, study of documents, estimation of load acting, estimation of environmental effects, diagnosis, prospective analysis, diagnosis confirmed. If it is okay, we can go for the retrofitting and rehabilitation techniques. So this is regarding the flowchart for assessment. So next, coming to the evaluation of surface and structural cracks. We know the cracks is divided into two things. That is, first one is superficial cracks and structural cracks. Superficial cracks is just on the surface cracks. Okay, this is also as a surface cracks. This may not affect much on the structures. So structural cracks is the very severe cracks that will affect the structures. That means it reduces the structural efficiency. Now structural cracks may be active cracks and dormant cracks. So active crack is very dangerous. That is, once the cracks is develops, it continuously develops. So day by day, the cracks dimensions will also increases. That means in other way, the structures will get deteriorate early. And dormant cracks is nothing but it not move. Okay, dormant crack. If once the crack is visualized, so it does not develop. For that type of crack, we are calling as dormant crack. By doing the following information, by the may help in diagnosing the cracks, whether the crack is new or old. By seeing the cracks, we can finalize whether the crack is old or new. Next, what is the type of crack, whether it is active or dormant? For example, it is new crack, it is next, whether it appears on the opposite face of the members also, pattern of the cracks. That means whether the cracks only in one side, there is no much effect. If the cracks is develops in the opposite face, for example, if the flexural cracks on the both face of the beam, it is very problem. Next, what is the type of soil conditions, type of foundation used, sign of movement, ground if any. Observation on the similar structures in a same locality, study of specification, method of construction used and test result at site, views of designer, builder, occupants of the building, if any, whether during which is the structure has been constructed. So by this is the some of the informations we can get from the diagnosis of cracks. So cracks diagnosis is very much important in the diagnosis of the assessment of building structures. So this is regarding the assessment procedure. So in the next session, we are going to study in detail the non-destructive, destructive and other type of tests. Okay, thank you.